again.
Namaste. So I was going to talk a little bit more about that, trying to explain something. And that people want to keep asking about the shift of consciousness and when all falls away, and about no longer having that me. And no matter how many times one tries to explain it, like it was said in the last section, that it's like trying to explain the vibrancy of colors to a man that's been blind from birth. It's not until if there's even an operation available for that one, until he has the operation, and then he's going to know for himself what colors are, the vibrancy of them, and how they affect mind and mood and whatever, and the same thing. This is why ones like Nisargadatta or Ramana or any of those in non-dual consciousness will just finally have to say, look, the only way it's going to be understood is first get there and understand the self. And then you'll understand, then you'll know. Because it can't be given, it cannot be explained. Non-duality cannot be explained to a dualistic mind. It just can't. It can never grasp it. Can never be grasped. There are no words that can break through those barriers. It's only when the mind stills, when the mind falls away, that it's going to be encountered fully. There may be some glimpses along the way, but then those rapidly get covered over when mind reasserts itself. This is why it's so important, not just to get there, in a nirvikalpa samadhi state, why it has to become a nirvikalpa sahaj, why it has to be ongoing. Because if you're just there in your seated meditation, and then all of a sudden you have this glimpse, and you come out of it, and the mind reasserts, it's covered over again. And it becomes just another experience of an experiencer. So this is why mind has to go. And all of the ones, like Ramana as well, is very, very clear on this fact. Like Robert Adams as well, very clear on this fact. The teachers that remain in that non-dual mind will be very, very clear of that original mind, as they call in, I guess, Buddhism, I think they call original mind, one of the stripped bare of all the conditionings and all of the, it's prior to this projection and motion. Okay? So one has to get there first, Quit trying to figure it out. Quit trying to I'm going to learn my way there. You cannot learn your way there. The more you gather and collect, the more has to be stripped bare. But one loses nothing in the end, There's nothing of value to be lost. And there is nothing to worry about, whatever the body is collected, the body's just going to continue to play out in the world, that's all. Nothing is lost in that. But I think people, they want to hear that, well, it's okay to have mind. Mind can be going, but I'm just not attached to it. And I'm witnessing it, and it's in the background, and it's okay. Well, no, that's still the furthest you get with that is oneness and witness state. And this is the danger, to get to that point and go no further and think that that's it. Well, if there's no attachment to what's rising and falling, then I'm in non-duality. But no, that's not the case of it. There's another rabbit hole to fall down. And this last rabbit hole is the big one. Big difference between the oneness is when, people want to say at that point that it's non-dual because I'm one with everything. It's all one. We're all one. But that's not it. There's something beyond that. It's such a radical shift from that. Because in that oneness there is still this, the bliss that comes and goes and all this other drama that's taking place, and it's that at that point it's like a drug because it's kind of like the have the cake and eat it too type thing,
Mm-hmm.
Now mind is still functioning and this is still going, and I've got all these ideals and all of this, all these things that I'm going to do for humanity, and yeah. God and I are one, we're saving the planet, and all of this other drama that happens. And when the bottom falls out, there's only been that one. And ego's never, never been it, but it's always been here. Okay? So big, vast difference. And when one enters into that nirvikalpa sahaj, there is no rising and falling mind. There may be very, very few scattered on occasion, very, very seldom, some rising of almost essence of a thought that may come, but just dissipates. It's gone. And again, how can one speak to this? What it's like to be within that?
This provides a big incentive for those interested to want to find out what this is.
Yeah, one has to get there themselves. Nobody can hand it to you. I cannot, you're not going to hear about it and suddenly get it, and then all's going to dissipate. I think that's the illusion, that I'll hear just the right thing, and it's going to be the catalyst, and it's all going to just magically, implode or explode, or I'll get it, because there's no person, no persona, no me that ever gets enlightened. And I think that's the grand fallacy and the grand hope and the grand illusion, that I'm going to get enlightened and be better. There's no one to get enlightened. Inherently, that truth is already present, but it's covered over by the blinders of ego. And until the blinders of ego go, it will remain occluded. And one will continue, in the journey of seeking and, doing all these other things. And there's a lot of grand things that one can do on the journey. And there's so many stages one goes through on the journey. At the first blush, you have many times this first grand heart opening, an expansion, and people want to think that's it. Or the first time Kundalini ignites and you see lights, you think that's it, you're enlightened. You have again another grand heart opening into oneness and witness state, and then it occludes, and one's back in suffering. And then some say, well, in that suffering now I can help humanity because I understand it. When you're when you're here in the oneness, you don't understand it. Well, no, it's not that one falls back and again into occlusion. One should go forward And when all drops away, there is no longer that ignorance. There is no longer that suffering. Doesn't mean that one is oblivious to the suffering of humanity. That at that point, that compassion is naturally there and it's understood because one has gone beyond that. Not in that drug state bliss, which everything is wonderful and, I don't see any suffering anywhere. It's all perfect as it is. Not in that, yes, everything is perfect it is, but not, that suffering is perfectly wonderful. That's not ever what's said. So I think it goes through another radical shift. The world is perfect as it is, karma is in place, and all of these are in place because of the undeniable truth of absolute. That its truth runs like a thread through all of creation, so it's going to continue to balance the scales, just by its very nature of what it is. And so in this fact, it's perfect. Okay? Underneath all the illusion and delusion of ego, there is that perfection. Okay? You have the perfect workings of karma. Does it mean that the world is perfect?
No.
That doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that it's all, copacetic and wonderful, that one doesn't do what is possible to aid humanity and that suffering, even though that suffering is on one hand an illusion, to the one that's suffering, it's very real to them at that point in time. So again, there's this vast disconnect that happens along the way, and it comes with maturity. When all really falls away, then there is this compassion, but this compassion that wants to see genuine healing for humanity. Yeah, so one has to go the whole route, the whole route to the full falling away. So again, the words are so superficial because one may say it's all perfection and mean one thing, and another says it's all perfection and means something really radically different in the end. So that's why, here the words are just such a fallacy. The words are never it.
It just gives a good incentive for people to want it.
It can sometimes give a good incentive. Sometimes you can cut through. Words can cut like a knife sometimes. You can cut through some of that stuff. That's the only benefit it has in it. If you can cut through some of the delusion and shake it, that's what the crazy wisdom is to go in and be able to cut it and shake it enough that it falls in on itself. That it has nowhere, no out, no place to go, and it has to go in on itself and go deeper to find that inherent truth, which is always present in the deepest heart of being. I'm not talking that's always present in the mental flux of, I got my inner guru and I'm going to, I can access it and all this mental fluff comes. I'm not talking about that at all. People's idea about the inner guru is really skewed as well sometimes. That's another one. We won't get into that right now, but that's another one that's a big drama. And again, not understood about inner guru, versus the seeking ego me that feels this separation. Yeah. So anyway, hopefully this explains a little bit more about, what it is and what it's not, and why the those that are in realization, like Ramana or Nisargadatta or many, Robert Allen, whatever, many of the other ones, that it comes to a point where it has to be said, just be still and know. You know? Hold on to the I, go no further. Add nothing to this I. Just know that there's one exists, and don't go any further than that. Don't put any kind of obstruction on that, and eventually even that will dismantle into the truth of it. Because it's known that mind, the dualistic mind in motion, will never get it. There is not just the right thing to be said that will explain it. It's impossible. No genuine explanation of it is possible. That's going to be understood. For those that are within that non-duality, there's one consciousness. Nothing needs to be said. It's understood fully, immediately. But for those in the dualistic mind, they'll try to, put a box around it, put a reference according to their life, according to their experiences. They'll try to define it, try to, objectify it. You can't. You can't box this up. There's no pretty ribbon on it that's going to make it, understood. Just not. So the only thing that one can say, is go back to time and time and time again, is just be still and know. Look within. Continue the journey. Full bore ahead. And get there yourself. And then it will all be proven. The proof is in the pudding. Gotta make the pudding and gotta eat the pudding in order to understand the pudding. That's all. And so on that note, we're going to stop because I got the guys out here cutting the lawn with those big machines, and it's like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hear it. Yeah, namaste.